Sometimes, as a lot of the organizers here know, go to a lot of these conferences, and this is kind of a new experience for me because eXelate, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with eXelate, but we're the largest data marketplace. So we are the infrastructure by which we gather data from web, branded data providers like IXI or Nielsen and others, and have custom data made available, but mostly for the display world. And then we make that data available to all different display channels. So we really don't get into the search world as much, and a lot of our conferences are around display. So I'm going to use this opportunity today to ask a lot of questions to the panelists and get their point of view on the combination of search and data, because it's been coming up a lot more lately, and really from my perspective, the display world and using top-level data, how they can expand and give us their thoughts on how data is used and the value of data. So, you know, at the end, I hope we have some time for questions, because I look forward to hearing more. But I wanted to introduce the panel, and maybe I'll let them give a little bit more information about their companies and what they actually do. But Luke Coltrin from Overstock, he's Director of Marketing. Andres, I know I'm going to mess this up, but De Villiers from Ad Marketplace. James Green, CEO of Magnetic. And Robin Simpkins from Xenia, General Manager. So thank you very much. I don't know if you want to just quickly go down and kind of dig into what you're specifically doing at your companies, but I can kind of kick it off with some questions as well.
Yeah, so Luke Coltrin, Overstock.com. I oversee all of the paid online spend that we have. So that's primarily paid search, display, affiliates, and CSEs. Lots of work and good work hopefully happening, and we'll continue to do it.
Again, Andres De Villiers from Ad Marketplace. I manage both our sales and business development teams. We are a leading provider of search syndication traffic out on the internet, and you know, at the end of the day, a large data management platform.
James Green. We Magnetic remembers all those things that you're searching for, and then powers the display ads that you see around the internet based on those searches.
Robin Simpkins, General Manager for Xenia. We just launched a revolutionary approach to keyword categorization and mapping. We have categorized 600 million keywords by searcher intent, and we did this by pairing technology with the humans.
Thank you. I wish I would have searched or at least gone onto weather.com last night for the cruise we were on, because I was freezing. I don't know if anyone else experienced that. So quick question, to start it off at a very top level, again, coming from my perspective in the display world and layering data for higher CPMs or branding, et cetera, what is the most valuable data that you see or that you need? And again, in our world, it's if you're in market to buy a car or a laptop, or if you're a household income level X, or if you're a parent. But and maybe we'll start with Andres. What is the valuable, the nugget of data that you see is extremely valuable?
Sure. So as a company, we see a lot of search data. We have about 500 million searches per day that come from all of our different publisher partners. But really the data that brings focus to any campaign and how we can make optimizations on behalf of our advertisers is the performance data. And the value of performance data does vary so much. Not only does it have to be timely, but it has to be actionable. And then I'm sure you could probably talk a little bit more about this, but how proprietary is that data? Those are kind of the different attributes that we can assign to data that we're collecting and data that advertisers are sharing with us. And like I said, if it's proprietary, you really have ability to find value where other marketers cannot.
Yeah, it's definitely that first-party data, the behavioral data that allows us to create segmentation to target our customers and is the engine to our economic value models and ultimately to the future profitability of our company. So we are extremely private about that first-party data, but I think where Overstock has maybe not been as great is layering in that third-party data to allow us to be able to target in different areas and in different marketplaces. It's probably an area that we have not been great at, and it's an area we're trying to get better at for sure.
Is cost a factor in that, or is it just education, or?
Cost factors into everything, right? So certainly that factors in, but I think it's more the fact of there's so much first-party data to consume that sometimes you feel like you almost don't need third-party data just because we have more data than we know what to do with. So if you layer in all this third-party data, then it gets even more complex. So you have to ensure you have the right staff and the right tools to be able to take advantage of it.
Robin, what's the
Sure.
golden data?
Sure. For Xenia, it's strictly keywords. We don't do cookies or timestamps like the rest of the panel. We agree with what Paige said yesterday, that it's all about data. It's language and the disambiguation of it, right? Because as marketers, we can only answer a search query if we really get its meaning. And where we really have some fun is looking at it, by different browser types. What are the keywords in your mobile versus your desktops, and then taking a categorical approach to just building those out very quickly and simply.
Okay, James?
So yeah, at the risk of being obvious, it's search keyword data, hand raisers that we all are here that's why we're all here. What's interesting about that is where that data comes from, probably. So, someone typing in a search for an engagement ring, for example, figuring out where they are and what they're doing at that particular time can have a radically different implication. So if you're typing it in, let's pick on Google for fun. If you're typing it in at Google, you may be looking for a celebrity's engagement ring, but if you're typing it in at Tiffany's, then you're probably looking to buy an engagement ring. So the combination of keywords and intent is by far the most important piece of data for us.
So if keyword is the sort of king here in terms of the value of the data, and I can, again, maybe give you a Cliff Note version of what people are trying to do in the display space. We're not a media channel, we're just the server of this data, but they're looking for that keyword as a seed, essentially, of what is extremely valuable, and then they're trying to build out either custom segments or derivative value of those keywords. Is that something that you can do? Because keyword data is only so large, it has some scaling issues. So I'd love your feedback on that, is how you're trying to get that sort of extremely valuable data and expand on it to create more value. If you are, I guess, doing that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of keyword data out there, right? There's folks like Magnetic that have a lot of this keyword data. We have our own internal search algorithm, which is our internal search pages are our most visited pages. So we're getting a lot of keyword data from that. Obviously, we have large SEO and SEM programs. So again, we're all just trying to get down to that buyer intent. What is that keyword or that display ad or that email that's going to help our customers purchase and whatever they're looking for. Is it low price, is it selection, whatever. And so trying to, I think, marrying all that up can be challenging.
Yeah, Andres, you mentioned when we spoke on the phone, I'll let you go, that you kind of manage it from beginning to end and have so much data. I don't know, maybe I think that's a good opportunity.
Exactly. And I think one thing, Luke, that you said is great, talking about just using your first-party data before you start to layer on the third-party data, is that you always have that negative side of data paralysis, where a marketer can sit there and say, I have so many different data points I can address, which ones are most valuable. But to sort of chime in here with you, Damian, we see marketers, and we really have a great transparency into the entire ecosystem of the search network out there, because we work not only direct with advertisers, but also direct with the publishers. So we see that search data coming in on the publisher side, which is really where the placement of that ad is going to matter. The value of someone searching Volvo, for example, on a site like AutoTrader, there's going to be high user intent. The propensity to convert is very high compared to someone on Google searching Volvo, maybe looking for a desktop wallpaper and so forth. So we find that by looking not only at the keyword, but where that user is searching that keyword, that's already has such exponential effects to increase ROI for a marketer, that even going a third level, looking at who's actually searching that keyword on that traffic source, hasn't become something that we're executing on 100% of the time. It's something we have the ability to do, given the performance data we're getting for those users with our advertisers. But I think keeping it simple and keeping it just to keywords and where that user is searching is already going to have such advantages to a marketer. And again, not to throw Google under the bus, but they've consistently put it in our heads that keyword is king, as you mentioned, because they do have all these other search properties, and they like to take a one-size-fits-all approach to what you're going to pay for that search term across all of their properties. And just being able to break that apart and dissect it is really going to be the biggest immediate wins for any marketer out there.
So yeah, just to build on that, we just did a study with ComScore, and for those of you that are interested,
I was going to bring that up in a separate thing, but go ahead. This is a good opportunity. It is very applicable.
So we just did a study with ComScore that looked at search. So we think of search now as a product. We used to say if you're searching for something, it actually meant a physical activity. You're going to try and look for something. And so we did a study with ComScore about what is the process that someone goes through when they're searching for something, and where do they spend their time, and what are they doing. And we found that almost everyone starts out on a Yahoo, Bing, occasionally Google portal start, and then immediately they're driven to one of three kinds of places: a site where they can buy what they're looking for, a shopping comparison engine, or a review site, and then you start considering what you're going to buy. And unless it's something very, very low price that you don't really care that much about, you don't usually immediately purchase whatever it is you're looking for. And so that consideration time may be short for flowers. It may be a little bit longer for a car, and somewhere in the middle for car insurance. And then when you figured out exactly what it is, maybe it's a flat panel TV. And this pattern seems to be similar for every single product, or almost every single product. When you finished out what you're doing, you'll go back again to Bing, Yahoo, and occasionally Google, and type in exactly what it is that you're looking for down to the SKU level, and look for the best price. And what we found about that is that these are numbers from December. We found that 43% of people's time was spent searching outside the top tier search engines, so it spent time searching on these vertical comparison sites, these e-commerce sites, and shopping comparison sites, and that the time spent there was longer than the time spent on the top tier search engines by about 14%. And it's that data that has higher intent. So you know for sure that someone's in a consideration set. If they're on Home Depot searching for a drill, you know that they're looking to buy a drill. So that using that data, you're talking about expanding where keyword data can come from. Using that data to power your advertising, and of course we power display advertising, which is where most of the advertising industry is on the web. I think there was a stat used yesterday: 95% of time is being spent outside search engines. So using that data to power that display is an incredibly powerful and compelling thing. And again, if you'd like the actual stats behind that, which we have broken down by industry and by vertical, I'd be happy to share that after the panel.
Robin?
I feel like I should say something nice about Google. You're good enough. I think it's important to bring in a layer of context and intelligence, to your original question about, the keyword being king and how to seed it right throughout other channels. And I think if you look at it much like a master data management system where you have two discrete conventions that need to speak with one another, your manufacturer calls black BOC and your retailer calls it BLK. This is something that, Xenia offers, and if you're looking at it in intent, right? We have many ways to say the exact same thing. And I think once you understand intent, it's portable. And I think that's the key to really getting a cross-channel strategy that you feel good about and confident that you're never going to waste clicks or impressions.
Yeah, something to add?
I mean, I was just going to say, we're all talking about all these different data points you can collect. I'd love to know from Luke what challenges he faces working with Google, given the fact that they obfuscate a lot of the controls to a marketer. I mean, if you go into the AdWords panel, a lot of the options in there are checkboxes, which really is not the flexibility that lends itself to the type of data we're talking about. And a lot of us are data enablers, data aggregators, and then data execution platforms. I'd be interested to hear from the brand side, what your challenges are dealing with the big engines, especially like Google, given the data that we have available.
Yeah, we love Google. They're a big part of our business. I think the challenge with Google, and some of this has been alluded to, other hasn't, but it's how, I don't want this to come across in the wrong way, but how much can you trust Google? How much can you, if they tell me to do something, how much can I believe them? And so I think a lot of the data that we get, we have pretty good insight. But I would say for people who want to operate at scale and really integrate a lot of that data, Google probably isn't the best platform or UI for that. You know, it's having a really good understanding of what our internal search or natural search keywords are, and then using that data to operate other activities, whether it's search retargeting or whatever. But certainly, Google, probably one of the things that we use the most that's a little bit kind of more black box with Google is Conversion Optimizer. And we don't know how it works, and we don't know what Google's doing on the back end, but we know we set a certain CPA for an ad group, and we're going to get that CPA. So there's certainly just a large amount of trust that you have to put into Google because they're Google. But we try to, I guess we try to push back where we can. We're certainly not the largest, but we try to push back a little.
And that kind of, I mean, we kind of addressed it now, but that was one of the things that, the main questions I had is, you know, again, being in the display world, we, I don't know, I don't want to say have to, but we do integrate with Google on a variety of different levels. You know, they have a DSP and Invite. They have an ad server in DFP. They have an exchange in AdX. And we have integrations with every one of them because we can't afford not to. Well, we want them because they generate revenue for us because people target and use data, but it's also such a large marketplace. And I was thinking earlier today and this week, when I do searches, I mean, again, I'm given the study that James mentioned, maybe I'm in the minority now. I thought I was in the majority. But I really just use Google. I mean, that's it. I don't click on anything else. I mean, and again, maybe I'm in the minority. But I imagine that you sort of have to plan your business sort of around them. Is that the case?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for those who don't remember, this is a little over a year ago, our natural search program was put in a penalty by Google, where, you know, for whatever reasons, we were de-indexed on some of our top keywords. And as you can imagine, this was a very fun time at Overstock.com. Paid search spend.
You were truly overstocked with your product.
Paid search spend went through the roof, which I'm sure Google loved. But it was, again, it was kind of a black box. It was our natural search team is reaching out. You know, what have we done? What do we need to clean up? And it was very. They'd give us ballparks for answers. Let's put it that way. So, you know, there was not a ton of, oh, you need this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. So, absolutely. I mean, if we're another thing I can bring up, another great moment in Overstock.com history. Last year, in the middle of the year, we decided to rebrand ourselves to O.co. A challenge, to say the least, but. I was on a task force that started to look at the kind of implications of changing our URL and all the things that would happen with paid search and natural search. And I think even if we would have continued down that road, and thankfully we didn't, I think that could have possibly just killed the deal because it would have had such a huge impact on our company.
So you have to think of all the different ways that
yes,
that can. Okay.
Absolutely. You take Google into account in pretty much any decision you're making.
Okay. I definitely want to hear from the Google. James, do you have a POV on this, or I know Andres and others have businesses that are built on people clicking on things. So does that happen outside of Google? Do you see that as the biggest partner/competitor?
To us, Google presents a challenge because it makes marketers very averse to sharing data. I think part of that is because Google is an O&O site. They do have that black box functionality where they can set prices. And I heard one person tell me one day that, you know, when Larry and Sergey need to adjust numbers for the street. They can push a red button and just increase CPCs by 1 or 2 cents across every advertiser and have significant effects for the revenue streams, which is, in reality, that's true. So they have a lot of control over their engine with advertiser quality score. There's a lot of variables at play where they can adjust things as they need. With us, like I said, it presents a challenge where we have to go back to the marketer, and we are really a platform that bids on behalf of the advertisers to find value across all of our publishers and really deliver ROI to the advertisers. And we need that actionable data. It's not because we're going to go out there and set prices. We actually bid on behalf of the advertiser. Google, on the other hand, is the publisher, so they're charging a price, and I think that's one of the fundamental differences. eXelate and Magnetic, we're all bidding on behalf of our advertisers, or you're actually providing data to DSPs, which are able to then execute for the advertiser. Those are partners, or those are platforms that are being utilized by the marketers. They're not the publisher that are setting the price or charging a rate and have the ability to adjust rates if your ROI is too strong.
James, I don't know if you have a perspective on this, or Robin. I don't want to let everyone know.
I'm not really sure what the question is.
Well, it was
anymore.
back to how big of a is Google a partner to you, a competitor? And it was mainly for Luke and Andres, but
yeah. So I mean, it is for us what it is, what Google is for you. Google is one of many partners. I mean, we participate the same way you do. We bid on AdX. We partner with DoubleClick. We do cookie syncs. They're just another partner, albeit a big one.
Okay.
And we're search engine and exchange agnostic.
Okay. Good. The constant battle that in the data world that we fight is just that it's extremely complex. And again, we have kind of varying, which is I think makes this panel very interesting, but different businesses that are represented here. But the hardest thing for us to do is to say, okay, if you're an automotive intent segment, or you're a household income this, or you're part of Nielsen Prism code, blah, blah, blah. If you have this data, how does that actually get finally displayed to a consumer, and how do you help, essentially, which we do, try to help the brand make a better decision with data? And it takes like 50 different hops. It can go through a million different channels, a DSP, a video network, et cetera. So how do you struggle, or is it easy for you guys to explain your value proposition to the clients? And in our case, it's marketers or brands. I think it is for a lot of you, but it's an extremely complex world. So explaining that to the individuals at the brand side has proved to be very challenging. How do you face that, and what is your ultimate value proposition? James, go ahead.
I'm going to be a contrarian. We have not had a hard time explaining the value of powering display with search data. I mean, so we go, as you asked me what I did at the beginning, take what you search for and we give ads based on what you've searched for. That's been pretty compelling, and no one's really asked that complicated questions about it. The complexity comes in with us and for everybody else, which is things like attribution and how, when you're actually showing those ads, measuring, did you actually sell this widget? Because I think everyone in this room, when you're running campaigns, if you were running one with us and you're running one with a whole bunch of other people and you added up how many dollars I say I made for you with everybody else, then you probably had, we think you made 4 times as much revenue as you actually did, because we're all claiming credit for it.
Well, you're running you're running the media, to be clear. So the different media channels that leverage data out there, we don't run any media. So everyone has a different preferred partner, whether again, it could be AdX, it could be GDN, it could be Interclick, it could be BrightRoll. So how you partner and connect with all of those, and how they essentially, to your point, show attribution. That's where the complication kind of comes in.
Right.
But you're running the media, I believe.
So
right?
So the front part, we are running the media. So the front part of the question isn't complicated, search data. The back part of the question, what data is actually driving revenue for Overstock, vastly more complicated.
Okay.
So. At the same time, like I said, the performance data feeding on the backside is crucial and critical to understanding what's going to work for the marketer. For us to really sell that back to the advertiser is, again, getting over the hump of Google really muddying the water and making data something they're using against the marketer and to raise bid prices. But effectively for us, I think the easiest way to sell it is to make it simple. We have retargeting in our system. We have user data that we're collecting. And when we go into those meetings and we're pitching the product to the advertiser, it's not, here are all the parts of the piece that you need to be concerned with. It's by keywords, let's make it simple, let's make it look like a Google buy to the advertiser. But then on the back end, our systems and our technology, we're able to execute on all these different data points for them and keep it simple and take it all the way back to just the keyword for that advertiser.
From the brand perspective, obviously there's a lot of vendors that I deal with and a lot of sales calls. The first piece is if you're talking to me about something that I feel like we're doing well, what is that value prop that's going to allow you to do it better? Or two, is it just incremental? When I've spoken with Magnetic and James, the nice thing is, we haven't really gone into the search retargeting space very much, so that seems like a new kind of emerging incremental opportunity. But if it's
evidently it's very simple to do.
Yeah.
So you can talk to James. It's like, I think you have a deal done. I think it's on your BlackBerry.
Launching next week.
Yeah,
so,
it's done.
But on the flip side, if it's something that we're already doing, it's okay. You really have to show me what you're doing is different. And I went to a conference in this same area about 2 months ago, and it was, if you're an advertiser, it's about the largest meat market I've ever been to, where I sit down at a table and I hear sales pitches for 10 minutes for 2 hours and just rotate. And it's amazing. It's amazing how many companies sound the same. And I'm not trying to be mean, but from our shoes, and maybe it was just this conference, but it was like, there was very little. I asked one company in particular. I was like, "What makes you different?" And then they said, "Well, it's our people." And I said, "Oh, okay, it's probably not what I want to hear, but that can be a great value prop. But I need to see the performance. I need to see that it's advanced and that it's differentiated, and that's what's important.
You should have said
to
you
us.
are you personally are the exact same person that just sat down here before you. You're adding no value here at all.
Well, and certainly we don't have a perfect understanding of the online marketplace, and there's a lot of areas that we could improve. And so, but I keep that in mind as you're pitching other retailers or other advertisers. It's at least for us, we need something that's incremental, or it's so much better than what we're currently doing.
And for us, it's time control and this idea that categorical thinking can actually change the way that you are approaching keyword management, and specifically in the simplicity of the output. It's essentially instantaneous, and I think all of us in this room have spent time working on building out the long tail and testing and retesting. We developed 22 million negative vocabulary, so you don't have to do that, and you can kick the broad match habit.
Yeah, well, just, Robin, to follow up on one thing you mentioned before, and I don't know how applicable it is for everyone else, but it seems to be coming up a lot more. It was mentioned in the prior presentation. In mobile, you mentioned that you're working in mobile to some degree. Is that the case?
Well, our keywords are agile, right? You can take them to any channel, and that's the beauty of it. We can just build out your mobile portfolio by category. Okay. And by the different keywords that you see in that particular channel.
Because we've seen issues. We're not currently we're looking at options in mobile, but we're not currently engaged due to some of the privacy stuff that was mentioned before, device fingerprinting, and a lot of things that are going on there. I just would love your perspective, because a lot of the stuff that's been brought to us has been about reaching the brand, not necessarily for DR stuff, but are you getting into mobile? Are you in mobile? If so, what are the plans? I'm curious, and it obviously, there's a lot of hype around it. I'm not sure there's a lot of dollars around it right now, but love to see that.
For ad marketplace, absolutely. We see on any given day anywhere from 2 up to 5% of all the searches that are coming from our partners or our publishers coming from mobile devices. Interestingly enough, the performance and the conversion rate is fairly close to what we've seen from the desktops. I think given smartphones and the browsers that we have these days and their functionality, given take a Flash out of the situation for Apple, but for the most part, marketers, as long as they have some sort of simplified conversion or It's not too in-depth, at least from a conversion rate standpoint for that advertiser. They can advertise across mobile as they are on desktop. I think pricing is going to differ a little bit on a CPC basis, but I don't think people should be thinking of mobile as such a different entity. It's really just a different touch point, and as long as you're getting clicks and your site is optimized for it, I don't think we have to think about it so differently. Like as she said, a search is a search on a desktop or on a mobile device. So yeah, I would just try and take it back. Everyone wants to have all these mobile conversations about how different it is. It's really very similar to what we're doing on a desktop.
Okay.
So we are not in mobile, but we have mobile data, which is sort of bizarre. So we, because of where we're getting our data from, so e-commerce sites, shopping comparison sites, anyone who visits one of those sites, whether it's from an app or from a mobile device or from we can see that data. The problem we've got is that there isn't sort of ubiquitous fingerprinting, you called it, but a cookie, right? Whatever the substitute for that is on mobile, we haven't seen, and I actually just last month retained someone to write a study on it for me so that I could really sort of deeply understand where it's going and when we should move into mobile. But we haven't seen that unique ID be there in a way that we're sure will remain. So we don't want to get in there and then find, oh, they deleted that option. Now I can't offer my services anymore. And the second part is in display media there are standards, and in mobile media those standards are less strictly adhered to. So the ability to have the same ad inventory available ubiquitously combined with that ID, when those two things happen, it's just going to be opening the floodgates. So and until those things happen, Magnetic certainly will remain on the sidelines waiting.
Yeah, we're the same way, but
yeah, for us, mobile, we've seen more shoppers and less buyers. We've seen a lot of browsing, a lot of maybe price comparison in the store, not as many conversions. Certainly the technology around mobile is amazing, and it's very attractive to a retailer. I was just speaking with an online kind of auction retailer, and they were able to they can track where their mobile purchases happen. And a user bought a Ferrari while he was on his yacht on the south coast of France. And that information is really cool because then you can figure out, okay, what can I do with this user? Can I reach out to them and do a blog post and say, wow, look at how functional our mobile website is. But as it stands right now, for us, we're seeing a lot more shopping, a lot less buying, and that's a hard space for us to be in.
I think one thing, Luke, I'll probably turn it back to you. You guys obviously have a mobile app as well, right? Yep. What's interesting to us is how app usage is, kind of has a very low adoption rate, or at least a low repeat usage rate. I think I saw one guy in a mobile conference mention that 75% of all app downloads are used less than 2 times, I believe, or less than 10 times. Some metric where the usage is very low. For general audience stuff like news, obviously you have a lot of repeat usage. I would assume for Overstock that would be one app that stays a little bit more sticky with the user. And then to tie in the data side of it, what are your challenges with dealing with data collection in an app as compared to a mobile optimized landing page, either probably an HTML5, I would assume, to give that same experience?
Yeah, so you're correct in that our app is probably a little bit more sticky than most. Someone asked a question yesterday about mobile advertising, and the response was, well, don't have a crappy app and don't have a crappy mobile website. There's a lot of truth to that. Certainly, mobile is an area that's probably hard to find people with previous experience. It's an emerging area, and so being able to have the talent and being able to have the dev teams to just consistently stay up with new releases or new developments is challenging from a data tracking perspective. It is hard to integrate. We have probably, like many of you, we have a Teradata relational database, and so our whole life is putting data into tables and then finding the right tables to join together. And mobile, as of right now, has its own tables. It has its kind of own separate tracking, but then marrying up that mobile information to the on-site normal PC, there's certainly challenges there.
So I'm just getting a high sign here. I want to make sure that we leave some time for questions for anyone. So with that, does anyone have any questions for the panelists?
Hi, this is hello. Hi, David Drotis from Direct Auto Insurance. This is for Luke. Luke, you said that a lot of your mobile customers. You happy for that question? You said a lot of your mobile customers they don't convert. Are some of these customers converting offline? Are they calling in? Do you track that? Do you have any optics into that?
Yeah, we don't do any call-in tracking, at least as far as site conversions go. Certainly, you know, we have a top-rated customer service program, so there's a lot of back things that are going on to align the customer service calls and the customer service experience to what we're communicating and marketing. As far as whether those mobile conversions are going to a regular PC or desktop, the challenge that any direct response marketer has is you care, but you kind of don't care. If you do mobile advertising, let's say we're doing it in our furniture paid search, and we're getting a lot of shoppers, not a lot of buyers, so the conversions aren't happening. And then in our offline campaign, we certainly measure if there's any benefit in the furniture paid search campaign, but I don't think we've gotten to the point of what is the overall lift if we turn on mobile advertising, you know, 100% more than what we're currently doing. So I think there's certainly some area that we could get more exposure and learn more with the mobile to converting on a non-mobile product.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.